The Ambassador's Dilemma. The atmosphere of Nixavalia was thinner than Earth's, giving Cade Mercer the persistent feeling he was standing on a mountain peak. After 3 weeks, his body had mostly adjusted, but the slight lightheadedness remained, a constant reminder he was far from home. "The Sovereign Matriarch will see you now, Ambassador," said Talon, his Nixavalian liaison, bowing slightly. Cade nodded, straightening his formal diplomatic uniform. The United Earth Coalition had selected him for this mission after his successful negotiations with the Centauri colonies. But the Nixvalians were different, mysterious, ancient, and possessing technology that could revolutionize humanity's energy crisis. If he could secure this alliance, billions would benefit. The Grand Hall of the Matriarchy gleamed with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed across curved walls. At its center sat Kavira, the Sovereign Matriarch. Her purple skin had a subtle sheen and elaborate markings adorned her face, symbols of her lineage and power. "Ambassador Mercer," she said, her voice melodious yet commanding, "we have considered your proposal for trade between our worlds." Cade bowed respectfully. "I'm honored by your attention to our request, Sovereign Matriarch." Kavira's lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Your species is young but promising. We believe an alliance could benefit both our peoples. However, such bonds require deeper commitments than mere signatures on quantum documents." A slender figure emerged from behind the matriarch's throne. Cade hadn't noticed her before, a young Nixvalian woman with softer features than the matriarch, her purple skin a shade lighter, almost lavender. "This is my cousin Zephyra," Kavira announced. "She comes from a noble lineage nearly as ancient as my own. She was born without traditional sight, but was blessed by the cosmic energies with a different kind of perception." Zephyra stepped forward, her movements graceful. Her eyes were a pearlescent white, yet she navigated the space with confidence. She tilted her head slightly toward Cade, as though sensing his presence. "In our tradition, alliances between worlds are sealed through union," Kavira continued. "Zephyra would make an excellent bondmate for a distinguished representative of Earth." Cade's diplomatic training hadn't prepared him for this. He maintained his composure but felt his pulse quicken. "Sovereign Matriarch, I'm deeply honored by such a proposal, but I wouldn't wish to impose obligations on anyone, least of all your cousin." Kavira waved her hand dismissively. "Zephyra understands her duty to our people. The Union would grant your kind access to our crystalline energy technology and provide us with the mining expertise your people possess." Throughout this exchange, Zephyra remained silent, her expression unreadable. Only once did her lips part slightly as though she might speak before closing again.
"This is
unexpected," Cade said carefully. "On Earth, such arrangements are not customary. I would need to consult with my superiors." "Of course," Kavira nodded. "You will have 3 cycles to consider. During this time, you and Zephyra should become acquainted. Talon will arrange suitable meetings." As Cade bowed and prepared to leave, Zephyra finally spoke, her voice soft yet clear. "Ambassador," she said, "I would be pleased to show you the crystal gardens tomorrow. They sing most beautifully at dawn." Cade met her pearlescent gaze and felt an inexplicable warmth. "I would like that very much." As he departed the Grand Hall, Cade's mind raced. He had come to Nixavalia to secure technology that could solve Earth's energy crisis, not to become entangled in an arranged marriage with an alien woman he'd just met. Yet something about Zephyra intrigued him beyond diplomacy. Tomorrow's meeting in the gardens might reveal more than just the singing crystals of this strange and beautiful world. Whispers in the Crystal Gardens. The crystal gardens of Nixvalia glimmered in the light of the rising binary stars, refracting colors that didn't exist in Earth's spectrum. Cade arrived at dawn as promised, finding Zephyra already waiting, her slender figure outlined against the glowing formations. "You arrived precisely on time, Ambassador Mercer," she said, turning toward him with uncanny accuracy. "Most visitors are either anxiously early or diplomatically late." Cade smiled, though he knew she couldn't see it in the traditional sense. "Just Cade, please. And punctuality is one of my few reliable virtues." "Then I shall be Zephyra, not the matriarch's cousin." She extended her hand, palm upward, a Nix Valian gesture of trust. "May I?" When he placed his hand in hers, her lavender fingers gently closed around his. A small gasp escaped her lips. "Your emotional spectrum is unusual," she said, her head tilting curiously. "Most humans I've encountered project in sharp bursts of color. Yours flows like water, deep blues and steady ambers." Cade felt strangely exposed. "You can sense emotions. Not just emotions, intentions, truths, the essence beneath words." Zephyra guided him deeper into the garden. "When the cosmic anomaly took my sight as a child, it awakened this perception instead. I see what others cannot." They walked among crystal formations that hummed with harmonic frequencies when the wind passed through them. Occasionally, Zephyra would stop and place Cade's hand against a particular crystal, letting him feel its subtle vibrations. "These crystals contain the energy your people seek," she explained. "They form naturally over millennia, absorbing and storing stellar radiation." "They're beautiful," Cade said, genuinely awestruck. "On Earth, we've depleted most of our natural resources. These could transform our civilization." Zephyra's expression grew serious. "That is why Kavira suggested our union. She fears humans might take rather than share if not bound by deeper commitments." "And what do you fear, Zephyra?" Cade asked softly. She was silent for a moment, her pearlescent eyes reflecting the garden's glow. "I fear being nothing more than political currency. I've been offered before to other worlds as a symbol of alliance. Always declined, of course. Who wants a blind bride who sees too much truth?" The vulnerability in her voice stirred something protective in Cade. "Their loss," he said without thinking. Zephyra's lips curved into a genuine smile. That was pure truth. It glowed golden around you." She led him to a bench carved from a single crystal that hummed a soothing tone as they sat. "Tell me of Earth, Cade Mercer. Tell me of the world that shaped you." For hours they talked, Cade describing Earth's oceans and forests, its crowded cities and quiet wildernesses. Zephyra spoke of Nix Valian traditions, of cosmic celebrations when the twin stars aligned, of the deep connection her people felt to their crystalline world. As the second sun reached its zenith, Zephyra suddenly reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek with surprising tenderness. "You carry sadness beneath your diplomat's composure," she said. "A loss that shaped you." The observation caught him off guard. "My wife," he admitted. 3 years ago. An accident during the resource riots." "That's why you accepted this mission," Zephyra said softly. "You believe these crystals could prevent such conflicts on Earth?" Cade nodded, then remembered she couldn't see the gesture. "Yes, your purpose glows with integrity," she said. "Unlike many who come seeking our resources." When Talon eventually appeared to remind Cade of his scheduled meeting with the mining consortium, Cade found himself reluctant to leave. "Tomorrow?" he asked Zephyra. "Tomorrow," she agreed, her smile warming something within him that had been cold for too long. "The Southern Gardens. They sing different melodies when the twin moons rise." As Cade departed, he realized with growing unease that his diplomatic mission had become far more complicated. He had come to Nix for an energy treaty, and now found himself caught, between duty and a connection he hadn't expected, with a woman who could see straight through his carefully constructed diplomatic facade to the truth beneath. The weight of duty. "The sovereign matriarch is growing impatient, Ambassador." Talon's normally passive face showed rare concern as he and Cade walked the corridor toward the diplomatic quarters. 2 cycles have passed. She expects your answer regarding the union with Zephyra." Cade sighed, running a hand through his hair. Earth's governing council is still deliberating. An interspecies political marriage is unprecedented, but this wasn't entirely true. The council had actually responded enthusiastically to the prospect, too enthusiastically. "By any means necessary," the Chancellor had said during their quantum communication. "The crystalline technology is vital to Earth's survival." What troubled Cade wasn't the political implications, but his growing feelings for Zephyra. Over the past 2 cycles, their daily meetings had evolved from diplomatic courtesy to genuine connection. Yesterday, watching the aurora-like atmospheric phenomena from the observation dome, her hand had found his in the darkness. The simple touch had sent electricity through him more powerful than any crystal's energy. "There's another matter," Talon added hesitantly. "The Krolex Mining Federation has approached the matriarchy with a competing offer for crystal harvesting rights. They're promising advanced defense systems in exchange." Cade stopped walking. "Defense systems? Against whom?" Talon's four-fingered hand made a dismissive gesture. "There are always threats in the void between stars, Ambassador. The matriarch must consider all options for her people's security." After Talon departed, Cade made his way to the southern crystal gardens where Zephyra waited. Tonight, the twin moons of Nixvalia hung large in the sky, bathing the crystals in silver-blue light that made them pulse with gentle radiance. She was standing beside a particularly tall formation, her fingers lightly tracing patterns across its surface. In the moonlight, her lavender skin seemed to glow with an inner light that took his breath away. "You're troubled," she said without turning. "Your emotional aura is turbulent today." Cade approached, watching how the moonlight played across her features. "The Krolex have made a competing offer to your people." "Yes," she sighed. "Kavira informed me this morning. She believes our union must be formalized immediately to secure the human alliance before the Krolex terms become too tempting." Zephyra turned toward him, her unseeing eyes somehow finding his. "She has scheduled the binding ceremony for tomorrow's eclipse." "So soon?" Cade's heart raced. "Zephyra, do you wish to refuse?" Her voice remained steady, but Cade had learned to recognize the subtle indicators of her emotions, the slight tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers curled inward. "I wish to know what you want," he said gently. "Not what duty demands, not what Kavira has arranged, what Zephyra desires." She stepped closer, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her. Her hand reached up to touch his face, fingers tracing his features as they often did, her way of seeing him. "What I want," she whispered, "is something I've never been permitted to consider. My life has always belonged to the matriarchy, to diplomatic necessity." Impulsively, Cade placed his hand over hers, pressing her palm more firmly against his cheek. "Consider it now." The moment hung between them, fragile and charged. Then, with a grace that still surprised him, Zephyra rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was tentative at first, then deepened with a hunger that matched his own awakening desire. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Zephyra's pearlescent eyes seemed to shimmer with emotion. "I've seen many beings from many worlds, Ambassador Cade Mercer," she said softly. "None have ever shone to me as you do." She stepped back, composing herself. "But tomorrow the matriarch will bind us for political advantage, not for what grows between us. And your world needs our crystals as desperately as ours needs your mining. Expertise." Cade felt the weight of two worlds pressing down on him, his duty to Earth's, billions against the unexpected gift of Zephyra's affection. "There must be another way," he said, taking her hand. "One that honors both our peoples and what we feel." Zephyra's expression grew solemn. "Then we must find it before tomorrow's eclipse. When Kavira will present me as your political bride before the Nixvalian High Council and the representatives of the Krolex Federation." Heart's rebellion. The grand ceremonial chamber pulsed with bioluminescent light as dignitaries from 3 worlds gathered beneath its soaring dome. Cade stood at the ceremonial altar, dressed in formal Earth diplomatic attire, augmented with Nixvalian symbols of alliance. Across the chamber he could see the Krolex delegation, hulking figures with ridged exoskeletons and calculating eyes that missed nothing. Kavira had orchestrated the event perfectly. The timing of the eclipse would symbolize the shadow of doubt being overcome by the light of alliance. Hundreds of crystalline chimes hung from the ceiling, programmed to resonate at the precise moment of the binding. "Your people will benefit greatly from this union, Ambassador," Kavira said quietly as they waited. "The Council has already approved transfer of the first crystal harvesting rights." Cade nodded stiffly. He had sent an encrypted message to Earth's Council explaining his plan, a plan formed in the pre-dawn hours with Zephyra in the Crystal Gardens. They had talked until the binary stars rose, finding a path that might serve both their worlds and their hearts. Whether either government would accept it remained to be seen. A harmonic tone resonated through the chamber, and the assembled crowd turned toward the eastern entrance. Zephyra appeared, escorted by 2 ceremonial guards. She wore flowing robes of deepest purple, embroidered with constellations in silver thread. Her pearlescent eyes were framed by a delicate circlet that emphasized her noble lineage. As she approached, Cade felt his breath catch. Even knowing what they had planned, seeing her walk toward him with such dignity and grace made his heart swell. She had become more to him than a diplomatic necessity. She had become essential. The ceremonial procession reached the altar, and Kavira stepped forward, raising her hands to command silence. "Today, as the shadow crosses our twin stars, we bind our world to Earth through sacred union," she proclaimed. "Zephyra of the House of Eternal Stars will join with Ambassador Cade Mercer, forging an alliance that will benefit both our peoples." Kavira turned to Zephyra. "Cousin, do you accept this union as your duty to Nyx Valia?" This was the moment they had planned for. According to tradition, Zephyra would simply bow her head in acceptance. Instead, she stepped forward, her voice clear and carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "I cannot accept this union as duty," she said. A shocked murmur rippled through the assembly. Kavira's expression froze in diplomatic composure, but Cade could see the fury building behind her eyes. "Zephyra," the matriarch hissed, "this is not the time for—" "It is precisely the time," Zephyra continued, turning to address the gathering. "I have been offered as a political token before, but never has my heart been consulted. Today I stand before 3 worlds to declare that I choose Cade Mercer, not because of duty, not because of politics, but because in him I have found someone who sees me truly." She reached for Cade's hand, finding it unerringly. "My sight may be different, but I see the truth of him. His compassion, his integrity, his desire to help both our worlds prosper. These are the foundations for a lasting alliance, not ceremonial bindings that treat people as commodities." The Krolex delegation stirred, their exoskeletons clicking in what might have been amusement or disdain. Their leader leaned toward an aide, whispering something that made the subordinate depart quickly from the chamber. Kavira's composure slipped, her voice lowering to a dangerous register. "You dishonor our traditions before our guests." "I honor the spirit of our traditions by speaking truth," Zephyra countered. "Our ancestors sought genuine bonds between worlds, not political arrangements." Cade stepped forward, still holding Zephyra's hand. "Sovereign matriarch, honored delegates, I stand with Zephyra in this. What began as diplomatic duty has become something far more valuable. Together, we propose an alliance based not on a symbolic union of 2 people, but on a true partnership between our worlds." He turned to the Earth delegation. "I've transmitted a proposal to our council that would establish joint oversight of crystal harvesting, ensuring sustainable practices and fair distribution of resources. Earth would provide not just mining expertise, but protection for Nyx Valian interests across the star systems." The head of Earth's delegation, Ambassador Chen, stepped forward with a slight nod to Cade. "We have received the proposal and find its terms promising. A genuine alliance offers more stability than a symbolic marriage." Kavira's eyes narrowed as she calculated her options. The Krolex delegation was watching intently, assessing this unexpected development. "And what of you 2? She finally asked. "If not a political union, then what?" Zephyra's fingers tightened around Cade's. "We ask for time. Time to explore what grows between us without the weight of 2 worlds pressing down. If we are to be together, let it be because we choose it freely." The eclipse had begun outside, its shadow gradually darkening the chamber as filtered light created patterns across the floor. In the dimming light, Cade could see Kavira weighing political necessities against the unexpected rebellion of her cousin. Bridges between stars' one full cycle of Nyx Valia's twin moons had passed since the disrupted ceremony. The Crystal Accord, as it came to be known, was taking shape in meeting rooms rather than ceremonial chambers. Cade worked tirelessly alongside Ambassador Chen, crafting terms that would protect both worlds' interests while ensuring sustainable harvesting of the precious energy crystals. Tonight, however, diplomacy could wait. Cade made his way along the now familiar path to the northern observation dome where Zephyra had asked him to meet her. The diplomatic quarters had become stifling after weeks of negotiation, and the promise of her company was like a breath of fresh air. She was waiting for him, her slender figure silhouetted against the vast panorama of Nixavalia's night sky. The twin moons were rising, casting dual shadows that created complex patterns across the observatory floor. "I sensed your approach," she said, turning with a smile that still made his heart race. "Your emotional signature has become as familiar to me as the sound of your voice." Cade crossed to her, taking both her hands in his. "That's a little unfair, you know. You can read my emotions while I'm still learning to interpret the subtle shifts in your expression." Her laugh was musical. "Perhaps that's why I find you so refreshing. Most Nixvalians guard their emotional projections carefully around me. You never have. Not much point in hiding from someone who sees the truth anyway." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, marveling at how natural such gestures had become between them. "How did your meeting with the council go?" Zephyra's expression sobered. "Better than expected. My standing has actually improved since I broke with tradition. It seems my rebellion has inspired something of a cultural shift. Kavira is adapting, though not without resistance. And us? Was that discussed?" Cade asked, trying to keep his tone light despite the weight he felt behind the question. It was. She guided him to a curved bench positioned to view the celestial display outside. "The Council has rescinded the requirement for our union as a condition of the treaty. We are free to choose our own path." Relief and something like disappointment mingled in Cade's chest. "I see. Do you?" Zephyra's pearlescent eyes seemed to focus directly on his, though he knew she saw him differently than others did. "What do you want, Cade Mercer, now that duty no longer binds us?" The question hung between them, weighted with possibility. Outside, aurora-like waves of energy danced across the atmosphere, casting prismatic colors across her lavender skin. "I want what I've wanted since that day in the Crystal Gardens," he said softly. "Time with you. Not because our worlds need it, but because I do." She smiled, the tension leaving her shoulders. "The Council has granted me a new position, Cultural Ambassador to Earth. I would oversee the implementation of the crystal technology, ensuring it aligns with Nixvalian principles of harmony." Cade stared at her. "You would come to Earth?" "If a certain human diplomat thought it advisable," she said, a playful note entering her voice. "Though I understand Earth's atmosphere might require some adaptation on my part." "We have technology for that," Cade said quickly, his mind racing ahead to possibilities he had barely allowed himself to consider. "The environmental suits are quite comfortable, and you would only need them outdoors until your body adjusts." Zephyra laughed, the sound echoing in the dome. "You've thought about this." "More than I should admit," he confessed. She reached up, her fingers tracing the contours of his face in the way he had come to treasure, her way of seeing him. "There is something else. The Council's healers believe that with Earth's different stellar radiation, my condition might actually improve. My traditional sight might partially return. Would you want that?" Cade asked. She was quiet for a moment, considering. "I'm not sure. My perception has shaped who I am. To see as others do, it would be a significant adjustment." Her hand dropped to find his. "But I find myself curious about colors as you describe them, about the oceans and forests of your world, about seeing your face as others see it." "However you see me," Cade said earnestly, "it's enough." The twin moons reached their zenith, and the observatory filled with silver-blue light. Outside, the crystal formations that dotted the landscape began to resonate, creating the harmonic symphony that Nixavalia was famous for throughout the sector. "There's a human tradition," Cade said, suddenly nervous. "When two people find something special between them, something they want to explore further." He reached into his pocket, producing a small object that caught the moonlight. It wasn't a traditional ring. The Earth Jewelers had worked with a tiny Nixvalian crystal he had been gifted, setting it in a band of ethical earth metal. It hummed faintly with energy, resonating with the larger crystals outside. "On Earth we ask a question," he continued. not as a diplomatic proposal or a binding arrangement, but as a hope for shared futures. Zephyra's breath caught as her fingers discovered the ring he held. "I can sense its resonance," she whispered. "It sings like home." "That's the idea," Cade said. "A piece of your world to carry with you on mine, if you choose to come. Ask me your Earth question." "Cade Mercer," she said softly. Under the light of alien moons, surrounded by the music of crystalline formations, Cade asked the most important diplomatic question of his career, one that had nothing to do with treaties or resources or alliances between worlds, and everything to do with the unexpected bridge they had built between two hearts. Her answer, when it came, needed no translation across the stars. Some truths, it seemed, were universal, seen clearly even by eyes that perceived the world differently. As the crystal symphony reached its crescendo outside, they sealed their personal accord with a kiss that promised exploration of territories far more complex and rewarding than any diplomatic frontier. Whatever adaptations lay ahead, atmospheric, cultural, personal, they would navigate them together, guided by a vision that transcended ordinary sight.